Hello everyone and welcome to the Week 9 edition of the Commissioner's Corner. Once again I'm flying by myself. Richard didn't return my calls yesterday. I don't know what happened to him. As you can probably tell, James here is not feeling so hot. I have a little bit of a scantily clad costume in 30-degree weather and I believe I'm feeling the effects for it. So today's Commissioner's Corner is going to be short. It's going to be sweet, but it's going to bring up some insightful information as always. What happened this week in the MUSL? I think this will say it all.
It's the same old situation. It's the same old ball and chain.
Yes, indeed, folks. It was pretty much the same old situation throughout the league this week, as the teams who had been winning kept winning, and the teams who mostly had been losing kept losing. There's a couple exceptions in there. Most notably, TDs and Beer, who looked like they were going to lose. They had a huge performance by the Packers squad later in the day. Actually, I believe that was Sunday Night Football, where they did really well, propelling them into another victory. The Dublin Drunks looked like they might lose. They ended up winning. Now You See Me, Now You Don't somehow won with 44 points. It helps if the other team starts the lineup. They didn't. The randomizer was quite favorable. They only got like 39 points, I believe. So 44 points was enough to win. Various other teams. Brandon Roy's knees actually did win, though. I was impressed. As well as it's on like in Damakong, also typical losers that had actually won this week. And then, I'm going to touch on this before I get into the top 10. The Center Rat. The Center Rat has historically been one of the worst franchises this year. Last year he did very well. This year, not so much. This week he actually was winning. He had 65 points compared to Troy, Dirty Mark Sanchez only had 22 points or something like that. So, upon further review, Dirty Mark Sanchez, if you watch these podcasts, please do something about your lineup, because you have some things set up where if you don't submit a lineup, you start the same players every week, and it's an illegal lineup. When I do the randomizer, I look Thursday night as soon as I get home if I'm working, or right after 8:30 to see who does not have a lineup in. Your team had a lineup in, so thus I did not do a randomizer for you. But upon further review, when I was checking the scores Sunday night, I realized that your lineup was illegal and actually was counting for 0 points. And much to the Center Rat's dismay, I had to then assign a randomized lineup after the games have been played. But the rules are the same. If you don't submit a lineup, you get a random lineup. Just so happened that you got 66 points out of your random lineup, which is 1 point more than the Center Rat had. He had the Seahawks kicker to go, so I figured, no big deal. Guess what? The Seahawks kicker did not get a field goal. Thus, the Center Rat loses in heartbreaking fashion. So, whatever it is that you have set up to do its default lineup, which includes no quarterback and Stephen Ridley, whatever. It's been like that 3 times. You're now officially blacklisted, by the way, Dirty Mark Sanchez. So please submit a lineup, because you're actually 4-4, I believe. So, with that in mind, let's get to the top 10 here. Okay, we're going to be quick. I'm not even going to do a bottom 10 this week, because I obviously can't speak very well. So, here we go. Top 10. Same old situation, as I said. No one is in the top 10 now for the first time. It's all the same teams that have been there. Some people return. Number 10, New Orleans Rock Chucks. Hanging on. You've got a tough schedule coming up, so hopefully you can continue to stay in the top 10. Number 9, the Donkey Punchers. Bill Green's team, who was number, I believe, 3 last week, did not do so hot this week. They fell all the way down to number 9. Homebrew, baby. It's the best. Number 8, the Riverside Raging Rancors. Craig Monahan, not only did he have a successful Halloween party this week, more on that later, we also had a successful muscle performance this week. Number 7, the biggest climber of the week, is the Kandarian Demon Moose. Thought for sure he was going to lose after he was saying he was whining about not getting enough love in the podcast. Ultimately came out of nowhere and ended up winning that game. Thus, he is now number 7 in the nation and number 2 in his conference, though. So very good, 6-2 performance. Number 6 is the Tecumseh Titans. Number 5 is Derp, who had another impressive win, as they seem to always have. Number 4 is the Gambler, who is winning that Ron Burgundy Conference, 6-2. And then number 3, Now You See Me, Now You Don't, has slipped a spot. They were number 2 last week. This week, number 3, thanks to that 44-point gift of a win that they received. Number 2, climbing back up. He was number 2 for a long time. Slipped to number 4 last week. The Dublin Drunks, with their impressive win, have moved up to number 2. And of course, no big surprise, TDs and Beer, I believe for the 5th or 6th straight week. I'd have to check the podcast and see. Still number 1. Sorry. Yeah, so still number 1, TDs and Beer. I can't believe it. The dude just keeps winning. This week he can thank the Green Bay Packers for their excellent performance on Sunday Night Football. I really thought he was going to lose, but alas, he did not. So, no bottom 10 this week. Like I said, we're going to keep it short because it hurts me to talk. What I do want to do is we're 2/3 of the way through the season, and week 8 is complete, obviously. So if the season were to end right now, who would make the playoffs? All right? So how our playoffs work is, first of all, the 6 conference winners get playoff seeds guaranteed. The 2 best teams, in terms of those, based on record, conference record and points, would get byes for that first round, okay? Those 6 teams would be, in order, okay? Dublin Drunks, 7-1, obviously, have the best record in the league. They would get one of the byes. The other bye would be Now You See Me, Now You Don't, who I believe, I don't have these records in front of me, but I believe they're 6-2, but they're 4-0 in conference. So that conference record, as I said early in these podcasts, is very important because in the end, conference record actually means more than individual record. Okay, so those two teams would have byes. The other conference winners, as of right now, would be the Gambler, as I mentioned, just barely above Cantarian Demon Moose in that conference. The TDs and Beer, number 1 in the nation, number 4 in the playoff seeding, though, based on all this stuff. Number 5 would be the Tecumseh Titans, and number 6 would be William Shatnerface, who just cannot break that top 10 no matter how hard he tries, but he is winning the conference. Now that conference is crazy because there's like 20 teams, maybe there's only 9, that are 5-3 in that conference. So William Shatnerface, enjoy it while it lasts. That's all I'm saying, because anything can happen in that conference. Alright, so then the next 4 seeds are all determined based on best record that is not a division winner, or a conference winner in this case. So that number 7 seed, if the season were to end today, would be the Candarian Demon Moose, who are 6-2, which have the best record of any team that's not a conference winner. The number 7 seed would be Derp, who is 5-3 with a 3-1 conference record, but has scored 562 points, which gives them that 7th seed. Or sorry, number 8 seed, I flipped those around. The number 9 seed, out of nowhere, would be J.C. Penney. I don't even know who you are. You've not been relevant up into this discussion, but you were 5-3 with 3-1 conference record, 459 points. Number 10 seed would be the Tallahassee Thundercats, 5-3, 3-1, 439 points. Now, again, a lot of things are going to shake out. There's going to be tiebreakers and all this stuff that we might have to break into as things get a little bit closer, and we will have to break into those. Right now, just to give you a glimpse of where you were standing, that's where those are. So those are the top 10 seeds. The 11th and 12th seed are determined strictly by points, not record. Record has nothing to do with these things. If the season were to end today, the 2 highest scoring teams that aren't already in the playoffs, okay, obviously Dublin, TDs and Beer, William Shatnerface, a lot of those teams have a lot of points. Derp obviously has a lot of points. The teams that aren't already in the playoffs that would have the best chance, or that have the highest points, would be the Riverside Raging Rancors with 540 points, which is significantly more than some of those teams above them. And number 12 would be the Donkey Punchers, 538 points. There's 2 points behind. Which is why when you get down to these final weeks, it is almost desperation time for a lot of people, even though your team may be 1-7, Center Rats. Sorry about that again. There's nothing to stop you from just throwing out super lineups and getting a lot of points. I mean, that is the way it's set up. It's designed to keep interest in the league. So even though you're 1-7, you are not out of it for 2 reasons. Number 1, you can throw super lineups in, get a ton of points, and vault past some of these teams that already use some of these players. And that would get you to the 11th or 12th seed. And obviously the 13th and 14th seed we haven't even mentioned yet because those are a wild card. And this is why you do not want to be in the blacklist. At the end of the year, whoever has not made the playoffs, the 12 teams that are up there, the other 52 or 42 teams, they all get a ticket in a lottery, 1 ticket for every win they have. If you've not started a lineup twice, you're eliminated from this playoff drawing, okay, which is what the blacklist is all about. We pull, digitally pull, we don't actually have 10 million tickets we're going to need. digitally pull 2 winners from that lottery, and those 2 teams make the playoffs. So even if you're 1-7, you can be the Ransom Ragamuffins from last year, win 2 games and make the playoffs. So it's possible. Anything can happen. So, like Ellie Goulding says, anything can happen. So that's where we'd go right now. I mean, again, I'm going to run down it real quick for those of you who just missed it. Dublin number 1, Now You See Me Now You Don't, Gambler, TD Severe, Tecumseh, William Shatnerface, Derp, Kandarian Demon Moose, JC Penney, Tallahassee Thundercats, Riverside Rancors, and Donkey Punchers all are in the playoffs if it were to end today. And again, we'll be doing these updates throughout the year. Sorry. Things to look forward to this week. A couple good games here. First of all, in the Ron Burgundy Conference, we have the Battle of the Managers, sprint style. The Kandarian Demon Moose will be playing Beast Mode in what is sure to be an intense game. Kandarian Demon Moose has a lot to prove. If they win, they have at least a shot. They have at least a share of that division lead. Beast Mode, you don't want to lose to Francisco, do ya? Nobody does, but a lot of people have been. In the Kirk Lazarus Conference, we have the 6-2 Tecumseh Titans taking on the 5-3 Vic in a Box, who I don't know what happened to them this week. They just didn't perform. So the winner of that will at least have a share of the lead. Then we also have 2 other 5-3 teams in this conference, Troy Pulling Out on You and Dirt, facing each other. So huge games in that conference. In the Spicoli Conference, we have, more 5-3 teams, man. The Squadrels 5-3 versus Potterville 5-3. Chance of the division lead there, or at least helping yourself for the next couple of weeks. In the Lebowski Conference, not a lot going on here. The Tallahassee Thundercats 5-3 versus the Broskies 4-4. Not really that must-see TV. The Brody Bruce Conference, however, this guy here doesn't show up. I'm actually playing his team, which I'm 5-3 and he's 3-4-1. Then we have the 4-3-1 Sioux Girls 1 Cup versus the 5-3 Donkey Punchers, and then the 5-3 New Orleans Rock Trucks versus the 5-3 Carnival King. So a lot of must-see TV in the Brody Bruce Conference. And the Zoolander Conference, J.C. Penney, you have a chance yet again to strike again. Further cement that playoff seed. You're taking on the Somerset Slammers, who are surprising 4-4, even though they haven't been talked about much this year. So, next thing I want to talk about real quick, and this is really eye-opening here. Okay. So as you know, I just went down the top 4. I went down all the playoff seeds. So it got me thinking, like, okay, what's left? Who do these teams have to play as the year goes on, okay? And the results are going to actually kind of shock you. First of all, most of these major teams, like the top 4 or 5 teams, just have joke games, okay? And here's what I mean, all right? You'll find out. The Dublin Drunks, they have 4 games left. This week they play the Moose Knuckles, who are 3-4-1. That is actually, well, that's not the best record they have. Moose Knuckles, 3-4-1. Then the week after that, they play Brandon Roy's Knees, who are 2-6. The week after that, they play Tom Luck and Down McCollum, who are 3-5. These are 3 scrapper franchises, okay? So things are looking incredibly great for them the next 3 weeks. That last week, however, they have to play the Kazoo Crazies, who are right now are 5-3. That is an out-of-conference game, though, okay? So even though they're playing a tough team, it's not even a conference game for Jeff's team. I mean, Jeff, it's about time stuff started going your way. I mean, this seems like it's an absolute shoo-in for you to make the playoffs. Probably a shoo-in to win your conference. Probably a shoo-in to have the best record in the league. And realistically, at some point, you can probably start talking about resting players. Because, I mean, you wouldn't need to start anyone if you cemented this too early, okay? Things are looking great for you. The number 2 seed, Now You See Me Now You Don't, not so great looking, I'm afraid. This week, you play the 3-5 Walmart Wolverines, who I believe have been blacklisted. So, I mean, we try to treat them like second-rate citizens. But then, you have back-to-back-to-back teams that are 5-3, okay? You have Squadrels in 2 weeks. You have Show Me Your TDs in 3 weeks. And then the final week, in what could be the game of the year, you will be playing off against Riverside Raging Rancors, and it will be a huge game in terms of playoff implications, because right now you are both in the playoffs as it stands. The Gambler. More subpar teams coming up here. Number 3 seed right now is the Gambler, I believe. He would be playing California Coyotes this week, which is 2-5-1. Joke. Ypsilanti Pipsqueaks, who lost with 82 points this last week. Tough break there, Seagraves brothers. They're 2-6. Julie's Gems are 3-5, and Beast Mode, who is 4-3-1. That final game might have some significance. Who knows? And then probably the toughest route here. Tea, decent beer, your luck may run out, but who knows. This week we have the number one. Last week we had the number 2 team facing the number 54 team. This week we have the number 1 team facing the number 53 team. Because TD's and Beer, who is number 1, will be playing the Center Rat, who was 1-7. Yeah, but they're going to be pissed after what happened last week. So I still feel bad about it, but it's the way it has to be, man. The next week, TD's and Beer plays New Orleans. Rock Chucks in an out-of-conference game. Big game there, out-of-conference. Both of those teams are playoff teams. If the season were to end today, that's going to be an exciting one 2 weeks from now. And then JC Penney, who's another playoff team if things were to end today. They're 5-3. So you have 2 playoff teams that you have to play in the next 3 weeks. So we'll see if your luck continues. I'll be shocked if it does. And then you round it out with old Saucy Dog, who's an old MUSL veteran, a favorite of ours, who has just not done very well this year, unfortunately. So that's what's to look at for the next few weeks for the top seed teams. Now, yeah, so this last bit, I'm just going to comment on it. For those of you who've been on the site, and I've seen a few people have taken the poll about this infamous Halloween podcast. I will admit, okay, so, and I'm going to say why my voice is so bad is that we take this Halloween costume contest very seriously here at the Seagraves household. At least I do. My wife could give 2 shits. But bitter rivalry between me and William Shatnerface, who, by the way, we play the final week, so look out. And I decided that I was not going to lose this contest, so I went dressed as Miley Cyrus from the Wrecking Ball video. And it was pretty much as you would expect. There was no clothes involved, hardly at all, save for whatever. I don't want to talk about it. But I got a little sick from it. But that sickness paid off with winning 2 trophies, including Best in Show, aka the Bigger Dick Award. So hey, kudos to that. But I will give credit where credit is due. I enjoy making fun of myself. I enjoy when other people make fun of me. I take it all in good fun. The Halloween podcast, you can see this, okay? 2 ways. 1, Richard can stop being a total vagina and bring his phone over here, and I can hook it to my computer and transfer it over and put it on the website. Or 2, if you are a member of the Facebook group, which if you're not, send a message on there or send me a text and I can send you an invite to the Facebook group. It actually is on the Facebook group. This guy, as his costume, came dressed as me because I left my Sprint shirt when I lived with Richard and Jen for a couple of weeks at their house. He came dressed as me. He even did the widow's peak type shaving of his head. Glasses, shirt, everything was spot on. And this prick actually got this guy to do a Commissioner's Corner with him Halloween special, where he imitates me the entire time, and it is hilarious. So, Richard, bring that over so I can put up so the rest of this league can see it, because a lot of people do enjoy this podcast, believe it or not. And there's a lot of people who don't have Facebook, such as Denny and the Dan Walters, etc., who cannot see this. So please, Richard, bring it over. If you're not going to bring it over, though, get on the Facebook group and watch it. It is hilarious, I have to admit. So kudos to you. I'll give you that. Kudos to you for making the playoffs if the season were to end today as well. But, like I said, Eric, me and you play at the end of the final game, and that's going to be monumental potentially. So, anyway, that's it. I'm out.